happy holidays. Hello and welcome. Tonight, Muslims in Nigeria join their counterparts across the world to mark Eid-el-Fitr, a festivity that signifies the end of Ramadan fasting by the faithful. The president joins other worshippers in Abuja to observe Eid-el-Fitr, his last as president, pleads with Nigerians whom he may have hurt during his 8 years of administration to forgive him. Nowhere to be found, INEC raises alarm over disappearance of the suspended resident election commissioner for Adamawa State, Uduari, says it has no information about his whereabouts. And 10 members of a family shot dead in an attack by gunmen in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province, the second mass shooting in the area this week.
On business news tonight, National Bureau of Statistics set to release new unemployment and employment figures in the month of May after a 2-year pause.
And on sports news tonight, the Flying Eagles of Nigeria have been drawn in a tough Group D encounter with Brazil, Italy and Dominican Republic at this year's FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Argentina.
And from Abuja, gunmen killed 4 policemen and 2 civilians during a routine patrol by a police team in Ngwapala, local government area of Imo State.
It's a time for sober reflection, prayers to God as Muslims across the world mark Eid-el-Fitr, which signifies the end of fasting in the holy month of Ramadan. The celebration follows the sighting of the moon for the month of Shawwal in Saudi Arabia and other parts of the world on Thursday. Muslim faithful in different parts of the world assembled in various locations to offer prayers and share their thoughts on the lessons learned during Ramadan. Here in Nigeria, Muslims gathered in their numbers at various mosques and prayer grounds to observe the 2 rakat prayers to mark the end of the fasting period with messages of love for one another and peace for the country. Well, let's kick off from the northern part of the country where Muslims join their counterparts across the country to mark Eid-el-Fitr with prayers and messages of peace. Governors and other prominent personalities, including the Sultan of Sokoto and President General of the Nigeria Supreme Council of Islam Affairs, Saad Abubakar III, all used the occasion to call on the Muslim faithful to continue to pray for the unity and progress of Nigeria.
The Sokoto State Central Eid ground was a beehive of activities as the Sultan of Sokoto arrived for the Eid prayers. The Chief Imam of Sokoto, Malami Akwari, led the prayers and admonished Muslims to imbibe the teachings of Ramadan. In Kaduna State, the governor-elect Uba Sani, former governor of the state Ramalan Yero, and the 14th Emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi, were among the dignitaries that observed the Eid prayers at the Murtala Muhammad Eid ground.
To Allah that He give our country peace and prosperity. We call on all Nigerians to maintain the peace. We are seeing what is happening in countries like Sudan, in other parts of the world. Whatever our issues, we are better off resolving them peacefully.
The prayer for peace is also the call in Nasarawa State.
Allah's blessings during this period. I pray that we will continue to live in peace with one another, so we will continue to practice the teachings of our own religions, so we can see the Nasarawa state of our dream.
At the Kano Central Eid ground, Deputy Governor Yusuf Gawuna asked Muslim faithful to work together towards a peaceful transition of the present administration. In Yobe State, the Deputy Governor Idi Gubana has asked the residents to pray towards a successful transition to the government. He also charged them to fast to obtain the blessings of Almighty Allah. In Bauchi State, The governor assured the people of the state of progress and development in the next 4 years.
Time for governance. We thank our party and those who voted for us, but certainly we will rule or lead by justice and equity.
In Zamfara State, however, Abdulaziz Yari enjoined Muslims to daily live out the teachings of the holy month of Ramadan, such as peace, love and kindness. At the Taraba State University Mosque, the state's deputy governor, Haruna Manu, joined other faithful for prayers, after which he advised that the tenets of Ramadan are lived out and not just for the season. The clarion call for peaceful coexistence was echoed by Kogi State Governor Yaya Bello. He also urged Muslim faithful to practice the lessons of Ramadan.
Just like our chief imam that led the Eid prayer, his sermon is all about unity, and I urge each and every one of us to unite as a people.
The Niger State Governor focused his message on security. He charged all and sundry to intensify prayers for a peaceful society. In Ilorin, the Grand Cadi of the Kwara Sharia Court of Appeal, Justice Abdul Latif Kamaldeen, appealed to Muslims to imbibe the lessons of Ramadan. In the meantime, the Secretary General of the Jamaatul Nasir Islam, Sheikh Khalid Abubakar, at the Fiber Mosque in Jos, has urged Nigerians to put the country first in the aftermath of the just concluded elections.
Without Nigeria, where will we be? Without Nigeria, we will not be anywhere. You could see what is happening in Sudan today. It is indeed very pathetic. And that we should be wary of those who instigate countries from outside to instigate them to cause trouble, and in the end, it doesn't pay anything.
The Eid-el-Fitr celebration marks the end of the 29-day Ramadan fast. Victoria Longchamp, Channels Television News.
And 38 days to his exit from office, the president has pleaded with Nigerians whom he may have hurt in the course of carrying out his duties as president to forgive him. President Muhammadu Buhari stated this while hosting residents of the Federal Capital Territory who paid him Salah homage at the presidential villa. The president, who also joined to observe the Eid prayers at the Mambila Barracks Parade Ground, maintains that nothing will stop the May 29 handover date to the next administration. Our State House correspondent Gloria Mizuke reports.
In what is clearly his last convergence with other Muslim faithful as the nation's #1 citizen, President Muhammadu Buhari arrives at the Mambila Barracks, Abuja, at 9 a.m. to perform the Eid-el-Fitr prayers.
Allahu Akbar.
A call to prayers by the chief imam, Captain Salisu Musa, echoes through the parade ground.
Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
The prayer is followed by a special sermon called a hutbah by the presiding imam. He underscores the need for forgiveness and genuine repentance from sin. Quintessentially, special prayers are offered for the nation's stability and a smooth transition. Done with the spiritual needs, the president, who feels fulfilled, speaks clearly about handing over by May 29.
God willing, nothing will stop it. Nigerians have appreciated the system and they are going to defend it.
Hours later, the president, accompanied by the vice president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the president of the Senate, among others, plays host to about 200 guests at the State House.
I thank God.
A sense of gratitude to God for a successful tenure is palpable here as Christian and Muslim leaders share experiences. The president again underpins an apparent enthusiasm to go home in less than 39 days, but first appeals to Nigerians.
Finally, I can't even wait to go home. If you said that, I'll move to the Republic. Whoever thought that there has been some form of injustice on him, we are all human. There is no doubt I hurt some people, and I wish they would pardon me. And those that think that I've hurt them so much, please pardon me.
The homage presented an opportunity for the President of the Senate to air his views on the presidency of the 10th National Assembly.
And I'm sure that our leaders will come together and decide how to go about how the leadership of the 10th National Assembly will emerge. I'm very confident that the APC members and senators-elect will respect whatever our party and our leaders will eventually come up with.
At his last homage, President Muhammadu Buhari urges that the Eid-el-Fitr, one of the festivals in Islam, is a stark reminder for Nigerians to embrace the values projected by Ramadan, essentially to advance a stronger nation. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And earlier in his Eid message, the president said the peaceful outcome of the 2023 general elections will go down on record as one of the best achievements of his administration. And the message contained in a statement by his presidential spokesperson, Mr. Garba Shehu, President Buhari explains that the outcome of the elections were in line with his pledge to leave a legacy of free and fair elections. According to him, free and fair elections are the only principles that give credibility to our democracy, because the subversion of the will of the people undermines democracy itself. The president also congratulated Muslims for successfully completing the spiritual obligation of fasting in the month of Ramadan. Ahead of his inauguration, President-elect Senator Bola Tinubu has reiterated his resolve to ensure a prosperous Nigeria under his watch. He made the promise in a message to celebrate the Eid-el-Fitr, reminding Nigerians that they must not be weary of doing what is right, fair and just to all. Part of his message reads, "We are at the dawn of a renewed hope for a better, greater and a more prosperous Nigeria, and I stand ready to walk with all Nigerians, young and old, male and female, with this opportunity to serve you in honor and dignity. This is a commitment that I have made and one in which we cannot afford to fail." Beyond the self-denial and pious living imposed during the fasting period, the president-elect believes the spiritual exercise also helped improve moral character in pursuit of higher ideals for which there should be no turning back. In part two, after the break, we have more on the Eid-el-Fitr celebration and how the festivity was marked in the southern parts of the country today. We have that in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live from Channels Television Lagos. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Muslims in Nigeria join their counterparts across the world to mark Eid-el-Fitr, a festivity that signifies the end of Ramadan fasting by the faithful. The president joins other worshippers in Abuja to observe Eid-el-Fitr, his last as president, pleads with Nigerians whom he may have hurt during his 8 years of administration to forgive him. Nowhere to be found, INEC raises alarm over the disappearance of the suspended resident electoral commissioner for Adamawa State, who Buhari says it has no information about his whereabouts. And 10 members of a family shot dead in an attack by gunmen in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province, the second mass shooting in the area this week. In Lagos, Muslim faithful marked the end of the Ramadan fast with prayers at various praying centers. Top government officials, including the State Deputy Governor, Kadri Hamzat, and Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, prayed at the Dodon Barracks at Obalende in Lagos Island. Mr. Hamzat challenged government officials and political leaders to perform their respective roles and make the country better for all.
It's that time of the year when the Muslim faithful come together to pray, marking the end of the holy month of Ramadan. In Lagos, some Muslim faithful converge on the Dodan Barracks praying ground, Obalende, to observe the Eid-el-Fitr prayer with the State Deputy Governor, Kadri Hamzat, and the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, in attendance. The Chief Imam of Lagos, in his message, emphasized the lessons of the season.
Fasting teaches us to maintain discipline and to practice patience. The holy month of Ramadan advocates for all good mannerism, humility, and generosity. It's also to educate us and to imbibe in us the way of a manner of generosity, the way to be nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way to be pious, and the way to be sincere.
The Deputy Governor calls for peaceful coexistence, bearing in mind the ethnic crisis that played out in the just concluded general election.
Whatever you do, if you're a teacher, be a good teacher because you'll be answering. For a doctor, be a good teacher. So I think it's just reinforcing that so that Nigerians, we all know that one day we'll all give account. So which is the season, which means that we should be nice to each other, we should be calm. Election just happened. There is a lot of anger, people hatred. It's unnecessary. People have voted, elected their leaders. We should let everybody go and do their work, pray for them so that we can build a better country.
The Minister of Works and Housing also charges Nigerians to be good citizens of the country.
To be law-abiding, to be orderly, to be their neighbor's keeper, to be the example of good citizenship, perform their duties to their country, and generally be their brothers and sisters' keepers.
The Agege area of the state is also busy as Muslim faithful, including those from other parts of the country, observe the spiritual exercise.
This Ramadan brings about unity. It brings about total submission to the will of Allah.
The advice I have the incoming president is unity. We need unity.
After 29 days of fasting, praying and other religious acts, the Muslim faithful are expected to imbibe the lessons learned during the period in their daily activities.
Meanwhile, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is also felicitating with Muslim faithful in the state. In his Eid-el-Fitr message, Governor Sanwo-Olu prayed for the state and its residents, especially the Muslim Ummah, on the occasion of Eid-el-Fitr, wishing them more of Ramadan festivities in good health and prosperity. He urged Muslims in the state and across Nigeria to continue on the path of spirituality and peaceful coexistence, adding that they should not depart from the lessons learned during the holy month, especially on perseverance, tolerance, and love for each other. Governor Sanwo-Olu urged the Muslim Ummah to continue to offer prayers for continued peace and stability in Nigeria, especially as the country prepares for the swearing-in of the president-elect Asiwaju Bola Tinubu next month. Meanwhile, the call for national unity and progress has also echoed among Muslim faithful in other parts of the south of the country as they gathered at various centers to mark the end of the Ramadan fast. They offered prayers for peace, unity and national progress as Islamic clerics called for continued love among citizens.
Following the end of Ramadan fasting, Muslim faithful gather at various places across the south to pray and share their thoughts on the importance of the festivity. At the Nasfat Mosque in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, Muslims gather to observe Eid prayers with the Chief Imam, Abdul Latif Abiodun, appealing to Nigerians not to use religion to create problems in the country.
Religion has been something that has torn this country apart. I want to enjoin my Muslim brothers and sisters to make sure they make sure they take it easy when it comes to matter of religion, and that all the ethnic groups in Nigeria, let us all come together and live as an entity so that Nigeria can be a peaceful country for us all.
One of the congregants explains that being a Southern Muslim is not as a lot of people think it is. He says they are free to practice their faith without fear of harassment.
Occasionally we have some issues of misconceptions around the religion, which is normal, and that's why we set up these organizations like NASFAT to clear those misconceptions about Islam. But basically, in River State, there's been a peaceful atmosphere so far. And as you see in conduct of our activities in NASFAT, other organizations pray their Eid without problems.
In Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, Muslims in their thousands converged on Lantoro Central Praying Ground to observe the 2 Rakat prayers, signaling the end of the Ramadan. Governor Dakba Abiodun used the occasion to thank the people for their support. His message was conveyed by the State Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Ganiu Hamzat.
We must continue to follow the ethics, the values that Ramadan taught us even after the end of Ramadan. He has also sent me to tell our spiritual fathers that he thanks them very much, because without their prayer, we would not have been able to achieve all that he achieved within the last 4 years, and that they should please continue to pray for this administration.
Muslims in Oyo were not left out in the festivity, as they also joined their counterparts in other parts of the country for the prayers. Thereafter, some top government officials visited the governor, Seyi Makinde, at the government house. The governor used the opportunity to congratulate them on the successful Ramadan and called for sustained prayers to foster development in the state.
I want to say that we should be thankful to God, no matter how difficult we felt the situation has been. But that God has kept us through the 30 days of fasting. This is to discipline the flesh. You know, God has seen us through. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
In the eastern region, the story is not different, as Muslims in Enugu State also gather at the Islamic Center in Uwani to mark Eid-el-Fitr. Some of them share their experience as Igbo Muslims.
That love which we started today to be carried on, both Muslim, non-Muslim, whatever denomination you are in, let us come together, jam together, pray together, thank God together, worship God together, because we are worshiping only but one God.
With the Ramadan fasting over and Muslim faithful spreading the word of reconciliation and harmony, the prayers of many is for sustained peace in Nigeria and the world over.
As the nation celebrates the Eid-el-Fitr and praying for the nation's progress, some Nigerians are asking that the incoming administration be given a chance to excel and revive the economy. Some travelers who bear their minds at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, also prayed for lasting peace and an end to insecurity in the country.
Travelers arrived at the domestic wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, ready to board a flight out of the nation's capital. They troop in, laden with heavy luggage, a sign that they are ready for a long weekend. The departure wing is a beehive of activities as they make last-minute efforts to confirm their tickets. Despite the hustle, some take out time to pray for Nigeria. At the international wing, Nigerians who embarked on the holy pilgrimage arrive. They pray for peace and an end to insecurity in the country.
Pray for Nigeria, for us to have peace and proper security. But we are praying for God to take it away from Nigeria for us. The bad eggs among us, may Allah do away with them.
We have to be calm so that we should move this country forward. Because actually, when we are calm and we start to now, make the country become great, and that's one of the part of the prayer. That we pray that this country actually is our country. We have no any other country than this country.
They also want Nigeria to take a cue from other countries in terms of development.
We are lacking the security out of the country because it's not easy. Because when you travel outside there, you see a lot of development. You'll be taking you are in the country. It's a country you are having. So pray for Almighty Allah, for this Salah, for everyone, Muslim, non-Muslim, we are together. So may Allah give us all good togetherness so that we can move country forward.
With less than a month to the start of a new administration, many expect a revival of not just the economy, but other sectors of the country.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the National Bureau of Statistics set to release new unemployment and employment figures in May after a 2-year pause. That's on Business News. To join us again. Well, it's now time to head to our Abuja studios where Linda Kigwe is standing by. Hi Linda, and happy Eid-el-Fitr.
Hello Millicent, same to you and everyone celebrating. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says the suspended Resident Electoral Commissioner, Mr. Hudu Ari, is at large, and the Commission has no information about his whereabouts. Now, this is according to the Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee at INEC, Mr. Festus Okoye, who says the police are already investigating the issue, and once that is concluded, the Commission will initiate Mr. Ari's prosecution. He was a guest on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily.
We wrote to the Inspector General of Police, and we also wrote to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. We have received a response from the Office of the Inspector General of Police, and they have already commenced investigation. Our understanding is that the moment the Inspector General of Police concludes the investigation relating to the Resident Electoral Commissioner and every other individual who is involved, and a prima facie case is established against the Resident Electoral Commissioner, the file will be the file will be made available to the Commission, and the Commission will initiate the prosecution of the REC. Well, we don't know where he is because after this particular incident, the Commission wrote to him both in writing and also called him on the phone. He never returned any of the calls. He never answered any of the calls. And we asked him to report to the Commission on Sunday. We didn't see him. We asked him to report on Monday. We didn't see him. So up to this moment, he has not reported, and we don't know his whereabouts. This is the responsibility of the Nigerian Police Force. If they make a determination that his presence is absolutely needed during the investigation and he's nowhere to be found, it is their prerogative and discretion to declare him wanted. But you know, if you had the Resident Electoral Commissioner for Adamawa State kept on telling the national commissioners that were deployed to Adamawa State that the way national commissioners were appointed was the way he was appointed, and that the way national commissioners are removed is the same way he is removed, and that he's not answerable to the national commissioners because he was appointed by the president. And I think that we cannot have that type of situation. But what he did is just an aberration. Now we are still in the middle of election. The moment we are through with the issue of all these elections, we will sit down as a commission and do both internal and external review of the entire gamut and entire processes leading to this election. And I'm sure that at that particular moment, those who were involved and those who were in charge of our ICT facility will come and soberly and rationally explain to the commission what exactly happened and what went wrong and what should be done.
In other stories, former governor of Abia State and Senate Chief Whip Orji Uzor says the 10th National Assembly would only be loyal to Nigerians and not any individual. He also condemned the call for interim government, which he says is unconstitutional and will be met with the stiffest resistance from lawmakers. Senator Kalu spoke to journalists at his residence in Abuja.
There is no room whatsoever for interim government. It's not in our constitution, and those calling for that are going against the constitution. It's just a joke. The church needs to work with the government, and I will go full out to reconcile the church and the government. And this is a major act. Anybody telling you that any government can go alone, they cannot go alone. The church needs the government, the government needs the church. So it's a partnership that can be worked and worked very well. I'm going to be in front of driving that to make sure there's a reconciliation, true reconciliation between Nigerians, the church, and the government, especially our party as APC. The 10th Senate will be loyal to Nigerians. That's number one. We're not going to be loyal to any party or anybody or any individual or any group. Where the 10th Senate collectively will be loyal to Nigerians, and Nigerians we expect should be loyal to us.
Staying with issues regarding the federal legislature, the National Forum of All Progressives Congress Ward Chairman is appealing to the party's National Working Committee to zone the office of the Senate President to the Southeast. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, Mr. Salihu Abdullahi explains that zoning the Senate presidency to the southeast will aid national integration and healing process. The forum adds that the southeast zone in the 2023 general elections produced 6 APC senators-elect and deserves to be integrated at the national level. To security matters, the disturbing news from Imo State, where 4 policemen and 2 civilians have been killed by gunmen along Okpala Junction in Ngokpala local government area of the state. According to the spokesperson of the State Police Command, Henry Okoye, the incident happened in the early hours of today when a police team attached to Mbise Ngokpala Area Command was on the patrol of the area. It said they were ambushed by gunmen who engaged the police team in a gun duel. Mr. Okoye adds that the command's tactical team has been drafted to the area for intensive combing of the place with a mandate to arrest the perpetrators and bring them to book. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Linda. And we take you to River State, where Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited, a company involved in the security and protection of the Trans-Niger pipeline, has met with stakeholders and community leaders in Port Harcourt. According to the company, the engagement is part of the measures aimed at improving its relations with communities within its sphere of operation in the Niger Delta.
The venue of the engagement between the Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited and representatives of host communities of the Trans-Niger pipeline is filled with traditional rulers, community representatives, and top officials of the company.
We have not done too well. So
the company's general manager for community relations admits that the company erred in the past, but is trying to amend its relationship with the communities for a better partnership.
We are here today to seek your opinion, your suggestions on how we can deliver on our mandate of securing the pipeline, the Trans-Niger pipeline that passes your community.
One after another, stakeholders air their views on their challenges and how relations can be improved.
So what we're talking about here is not the issue of people making money unlawfully. The long effect of it is that with time, we will not have anywhere to farm again. We will not have any place again to fish.
Those working are our boys. Some are not our boys. And there is no way that thing will work effectively because the challenges are like this. Those that know the game are not included in the job.
Speaking to Channels Television on the sidelines of the event, The general manager for community relations and one of the contractors expressed optimism for future dealings.
We have agreed to do more for the communities in terms of increasing the number of workers and ensure that our workers are given adequate protection.
Pipeline infrastructure, they've been wonderful. Sincerely, they've been living up to their responsibility as, should I say, as our parent company. They've been doing very well.
The engagement between both parties is to ensure synergy for an improved relationship and to curb all forms of illegal bunkering and unrest going forward. Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
And to other stories, a tech documentary titled Finding Tech Against All Odds has been premiered by Ingressive for Good in partnership with the U.S. Consulate. The film was screened at the American Corner at Ikeja, Lagos, and highlights the transformational journey of some Nigerian youths who took to tech after their dreams were dashed.
We all know how Nigeria is. It's not even easy to start a career. I worked as a laborer.
Became a painter, sold popcorn.
Started working at a farm.
I had to pretend that I'm not a graduate.
As highlighted in this documentary titled Finding Tech, these are the struggles some Nigerian youths pass through before achieving their tech dreams.
Computer scientist has always been a dream of mine.
Software engineer.
A medical doctor.
Computer engineer.
But just like the title, they have found tech against all odds. This is the premiere screening of the documentary showcasing the personal journeys of youth who have turned to technology to solve real-world problems in their communities. The film was produced by EdTech nonprofit Ingressive for Good in partnership with the U.S. Consulate.
Like Ingressive for Good, the U.S. Consulate and the U.S. government believes in the power of technology to transform people's lives, to provide them with skills, to provide them with job opportunities, and to help them realize their dreams. And you saw many examples of that today, and I was inspired as well. And I look forward to using this documentary as a source for not just inspiration, but as a playbook for how we can then start engaging with more and more young people around Nigeria and around the continent of Africa so that we can do more of these and create more communities of success and more communities of prosperity like we're already seeing done.
For the film's producer and co-founders of Ingressive for Good, it is important to share the stories to inspire the next generation of problem solvers.
I think our inspiration totally came from our community. We were getting all of these stories. We started out and we thought it would take 5 years before we can see the real impact of what we were doing. But within 6 months and 1 year, we were already getting feedback. You know, sometimes before a training is over, people are calling us and saying, oh, I have a job. See how my life has changed. And so it was really important for us to tell those stories so that people out there who are struggling with the same thing can reach out to us. And then, you know, we can see people who are doing what they want to do and feel inspired.
Why Finding Tech? Because that is the opportunity that we present, and also that is the need that we serve. We find that tech offers the lowest barrier to entry. With nothing more than a laptop, data, and power, basically you can build the next Amazon, you can build the next Google. So we picked something, again, with the lowest barrier to entry, where we know that if we drive resources there, it's capable of the highest amount of impact.
The beneficiaries of the program speak on how their lives were transformed through tech.
The journey was interesting, not because there was no challenge or anything, but because it is something I want to do, something I could put my hands to do, creating a solution that I do by myself, and I put it out there, and it works.
Well, I say it's overwhelming at some point. There was a point I actually gave up. I gave up totally. Like I said, I wasn't going to continue. But the community, Ingressive for Good community, they were always there to, you know, to reach out. Like, how has it been for you? So all that kept me going. I had to, you know, come back. You know, even after I went here, it was really heartwarming for me due to the love and support I got from the Ingressive for Good community.
Technology has a limitless potential to improve lives and drive positive change, and this documentary, Finding Tech, showcases how youths can make a difference by leveraging their skills.
Story of succeeding against all odds. Now time for business news. Here's Anne Wilder.
Thank you, Millicent, and happy Eid-el-Fitr to all our Muslim brothers and sisters. The National Bureau of Statistics says that it is changing the way it measures unemployment. It is also set to release new quarterly data from May this year. In a document titled Nigeria Labour Force Framework Redesign 2023, the NBS explains that report, which is almost concluded, will cover data collected from October 19, 2022 to January the 22nd this year. The agency also says the country's unemployment rate stood at 33.3% as of the fourth quarter of 2020. The NBS quoted that despite the challenges faced in gathering data for that report, it was learning from other countries to improve Nigeria's labor market statistics. Nigeria and China have agreed to boost the volume of trade between both countries, and this was disclosed by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Evelyn Ngige, at the China-Nigeria Investment, Economic and Trade Promotion Conference in Abuja. According to her, plans were ongoing for activities that will deepen trade relations between both giants. She mentions that the trade volume between both countries is over $12 billion, while they enjoy mutually beneficial bilateral trade and economic cooperation in various sectors. The Permanent Secretary adds that the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, Nigeria was better positioned for broader economic integration and trade enhancement. After a dramatic few hours, a number of major firms have already announced the cancellation of their membership with the Confederation of British Industry, CBI, as the rape allegation crisis deepens. PwC, BMW, NatWest and Virgin Media O2 have all joined those to end their membership with the business lobbying giant, which claims to represent 190,000 firms. Insurance firm Aviva, the first to announce it was quitting the CBI, believes the CBI is no longer able to fulfill its core function, which is to be a representative voice of business in the United Kingdom. Also, other companies have decided to pause their engagement with the CBI while a review will take place. Thanks for watching Business News for tonight. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. To some international news, gunmen in South Africa have shot dead 10 members of the same family during an attack outside the city of Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu-Natal province. Police were called to the house in the township of Mbali by neighbors who heard shooting in the early hours of the morning during a power cut. Police Minister Becky Cele and the top management from the South African police force who visited the crime scene confirmed the victims to be 7 women and 3 men. The motive of the murder is still not clear. This is the second mass shooting in KwaZulu-Natal this week after 4 other people were shot and killed on Thursday in a home in Kwamashu, north of the port city of Durban. And Muslims around the world are celebrating Eid-el-Fitr, the festival of the breaking of the fast, to mark the end of the holy month of Ramadan. Here's how it was celebrated in the Middle East and other parts of the world.
Muslim faithful around the world marked Eid-el-Fitr, the end of the holy month of Ramadan, with prayers earlier today. Muslims in Bosnia and Herzegovina celebrated in the country's capital, Sarajevo. The celebration started on Thursday at dusk when Bosnian Muslims gathered for the last iftar of Ramadan, the meal that breaks their day-long fast. In Jerusalem, throngs of worshippers joined prayers at Al-Aqsa Mosque, Islam's third holiest shrine. Despite rising tension in Jerusalem during the holy month, the cobblestone alleyways were bustling with shoppers buying sweets, fruits and clothes and other holiday treats for the 3-day holiday
and merchants piled up their shops and stalls with nuts, dried fruits and candies, hoping to cash in on the holiday rush. Meanwhile, in Gaza City, thousands of worshippers flocked to the city center as is customary for Eid prayers, reciting ritual scriptures, praying, and greeting each other. Libyans are celebrating Islam's Eid-el-Fitr holiday, but are ending their month-long Ramadan fast on different days this year because of bitter political splits that persist despite years of peace efforts. In Tripoli, religious authorities linked to the national interim government said they had not seen the moon and that the holiday would not begin until Saturday, April the 22nd, meaning people should fast another day. Allahu Akbar. Thousands of Albanian Muslims celebrated Eid-el-Fitr with morning mass prayers in the country's capital, Tirana. Drone footage showed worshippers praying in long lines on Tirana's central Skanderberg Square. In Qatar, thousands of worshippers rushed before sunrise to the Education City Stadium to attend the Eid-el-Fitr prayers, and they were happy they did.
Today was basically the first day of Eid, the first day of Shawwal. We're all excited. It's the first time ever that we're having the Eid Salah in the Education City Stadium, just a couple of months after the World Cup, so people are still, you know, reliving the memories of the World Cup and remembering that, and basically this is a beautiful venue on campus in Education City. 12 square kilometers, you know, that's just so beautiful to not be used. And we were able to gather everybody today from families and all walks of life and all nationalities and all cultures.
Eid-el-Fitr marks the start of a 3-day holiday that comes after the month of Ramadan as Muslims exchange gifts and visit family and friends.
In sports news now, two-time FIFA Under-20 World Cup runners-up, the Flying Eagles of Nigeria, have been drawn in a tough Group D encounter at this year's tournament, holding in Argentina from May 20th to June the 11th. The Flying Eagles will face Brazil, Italy, and the Dominican Republic following the conclusion of the draw ceremony for the tournament held at the FIFA headquarters in Zurich, Switzerland earlier today. The hosts and six-time champions Argentina are drawn in Group A that has Uzbekistan, Guatemala and New Zealand. The Flying Eagles have finished as runners-up on 2 occasions in Saudi Arabia in 1989 and in the Netherlands in 2005. Premier League leaders Arsenal battle from 3-1 down to 3-0 draw against Southampton at the Emirates for their 3rd consecutive draw. Now, Carlos Alcaraz got the visitors rolling just 28 seconds into the game after an error from Aaron Ramsdale before Theo Walcott scored the second in the 14th minute. Now, Gabriel Martinelli pulled one back, but Caleta Carr restored the 2-goal lead for Southampton. However, Martin Odegaard made it 3-2 in the 88th minute, while Bukayo Saka leveled the scoreline in the 91st minute to secure a point for the Gunners. Arsenal are now 5 points clear of closest rivals Manchester City, who have 2 games in hand. Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag is demanding more from his players and expects his side to bounce back from their disappointing Europa League exit when they face Brighton in the FA Cup semi-finals on Sunday. Ten Hag speaking the day after their 3-0 Europa League quarter-final second-leg loss. Sevilla says his players need to acknowledge the performance was below par in the encounter. And that's Sports News Tonight. Thanks indeed for watching. I am Kelly Egiga. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Kelly. And the main news again. Muslims in Nigeria today joined their counterparts across the world to mark Eid-el-Fitr, a festivity that signifies the end of Ramadan fasting by the faithful. President Muhammadu Buhari also joined other worshippers in Abuja to observe Eid-el-Fitr, his last as president, just as he pleaded with Nigerians whom he might have hurt during his 8 years of administration to forgive him. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and happy celebration.